I'm again getting more excited as the program goes on. I am happy to have joining us DC Mayor Muriel Bowser. We're going to take a minute just to kind of look at what she's been doing throughout the city.
It's been a busy time for D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, from overseeing protests and the situation at Black Lives Matter Plaza to being focused on recent elections. Meanwhile, one of the most important missions of the mayor is focused on the D.C. school children and the plight in the wake of coronavirus, as well as keeping tabs on everything going on in the city, whether it's public safety and the situation around D.C., or focused on the recent election results and welcoming in a historic number of African American women. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is all about D.C., and she's focused and ready and willing to serve anytime you ask her. For Washington Informer, I'm Hamil Harris.
Mayor Bowser, welcome. Can we hear you?
All right.
All right, there you are. Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and thank you so very much for joining us. We've been trying to get you with us. And so are you in a classroom right now?
I am. I'm in the Great Ward 8 right now in the Excel Academy at the former Bernie School.
Fantastic. And so we're going to start. There's so much going on right now. As you know, I mean, we don't have to tell you. And so I think I want to start right now with the election, not only the local election, but we'll start. Thank you. I think we're distant enough.
Okay.
But starting with the national.
My hair never gets right once I take it off. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, I'm kind of whatever, but I got it. That's the girl thing. and speaking of, it's so much, but when I'm speaking of the girl thing, I think I will start there, because this election now, it seems to have you excited, because for the first time we have a majority female city council. Let's talk about that.
That's awesome. It's not the first time. You probably remember early in our kind of home rule history, we've had majority female councils filled with exceptional women leaders. We haven't had a female council in quite some time. I was sharing with some members of the press that when I was elected, for example, in 2007, Linda Kropp was the outgoing council member, and she was the only African-American woman on the council. And now we'll add 2 African-American women to join Anita Bonds on the council. So I'm looking forward to working with all of the members. We are also privileged to have men on the council who support women and have a feminist agenda. So we look forward to that too. Having said that, all women don't advocate for or have the same agendas, and we're going to work very hard with everyone on the council to do what we need to do in DC to get over this pandemic.
Speaking of Linda Kropp, I also think we should mention the fact that she was the first woman chair that I can remember of the council.
And the best.
And
I
won't argue with that either. I think she did a great job personally. So this national election, let's talk a little bit about that, and what in your mind, and actually what would make a difference between, let's say if Biden is successful, which it looks like he will be, what that means for the District of Columbia.
Well, I think it's great that we'll get a new president. I think we all went into that working hard to make sure we got a new president, but it's bittersweet in some ways because I, for one, wanted to see the total repudiation of Trumpism in America, and I don't think we've seen that. There is hope still that we could capture the Senate. It looks like in Georgia. And I will be looking to people who know a lot more about Georgia politics to let us know how we can support that.
And, it's interesting that someone said to me, the hands that pick cotton now pick presidents, but also the hands that rocked babies also may have rocked the White House. Black women have played a significant role in this election. Black women mayors all across this country played a significant role. And so, you call it bittersweet, but what does that mean for voting?
Well, I think that this pandemic has shown us on both sides, on Democratic and Republican side, that more people voted than ever. I think it also shows how fractured our country is by state. The popular vote actually doesn't appear to be close. I mean, just like it wasn't close the last time, but by state, it is. So I think there's a lot to celebrate, but we also have to examine why we didn't take the Senate when all of us thought we would. Why did we lose House seats? And what does that mean for a new president, his mandate to govern, and how are we going to make him successful so that we have a 4 years that's bold, that addresses the inequities laid bare by this pandemic and the racial reckoning that we've experienced in this country. So we have to see this kind of as a beginning. Yes, we can be rid of Trump, but how are we going to, wring every single benefit out of this next 4 years? And I'm, for one, willing to roll up my sleeves and support the new president and our sister Kamala Harris, who will be the vice president, and support, I hope, what will be a majority Democratic Senate. But that we're going to look to Georgia to see not only if it can deliver the presidency, but can it deliver the Senate, because that's going to be so important.
I'm glad you're keeping it real, because folks need to know that the party ain't over.
Right, it's not over.
And so, yeah, it's just started. So I'm glad that you're conveying that message. And speaking of pandemic, I mean, you've been out there every single day trying to make sure that the district residents are safe and keeping it real about what we need to do. So what's happening now? Well, I know you made some announcements yesterday. What do residents really need to know about what's happening with COVID-19?
Well, residents need to know that this virus is with us, and it's going to be with us until there is a vaccine. So we need to be very diligent about protecting ourselves from contracting COVID or spreading COVID. And the recommendations are the same. Limit your activities, stay 6 feet apart, but most importantly, wear a mask and wash your hands. We are, as we go into this holiday season, asking residents to stay close. Have your dinner at home. Don't have a big party. We know that a lot of this virus spread is attributable to small gatherings, people in their homes where they feel comfortable with people that they feel comfortable with. And among that group, the virus can spread. So just be very, very, very careful. Limit your activities. So what do I mean when I say limit your activities? Somebody that you know and love invites you to have a backyard barbecue. It turns cold, you all go inside, it's 25 people there. Or maybe there's 7 people there. Somebody is sick, 3 people, then they may not even know it. Now 3 people have COVID. You get invited to the White House or to some other grand event that you don't want to miss. You don't want to offend your host. So you come, I'll say 5 minutes, and then you end up in a small room where somebody's coughing and you can't get out. Now you're sick. Those are the types of things I'm talking about. Or you say, I'm going to get my hair done. I'm going to go to a restaurant, and I'm going to go to a casino one weekend. People are doing these things. And then in all of that different activity, now, while, all of those things are nice and may be fun, but they're also unnecessary. So kind of pick and choose. So maybe you say, I need to get my hair done, but then I'm going to stay in for the weekend. You have to think about all of the ways that you can limit your own activity, so that we can still do the things that we need to do, just not all at once and not often.
And we know that some people will be traveling over the holidays.
They don't have
They're going to go to visit. Well,
to.
right. They don't. And maybe that's the point you're trying to make. They don't have to, but some will be, and they'll be coming back and coming back into the city. What does that mean when they come back into the city? What are you telling them?
Well, we
when
have
they decide
updated
to
our
come?
travel advisory, Denise. Since I think July, we have a requirement for a 14-day quarantine when you go to a high-risk state and come back to the district. Right now, just about every state falls into that high-risk category except 6 states. So it's kind of ridiculous, we thought, and impractical to have advice that applied to 46 states. We think a better way is to tell people to get tested. So if you're coming to the district, if you've invited your family from Michigan, we want your family to get tested before they come to the district, 3 days before they come. Isolate at home for that 3 days, come to the district. If they're going to be here longer than 3 days, we want them to get tested here as well. And while they're here, to isolate. Don't go to the casino and to the restaurant. If they're coming to visit you, then they should stay with you and not mix around in the city. So we think those are ways that people can track and monitor their own health status and not infect someone unknowingly.
On another note, Mayor, the city is very proud of you and proud of what the city did in creating Black Lives Plaza. But we know all of that had a lot to do with the issue of police relations, with communities. And the district is experiencing a spike in homicides. I know I'm over here in Ward 8, and it's like the Wild Wild West right now. At the same time, we're dealing with the issue of police reform. And some people are very critical of you and how you're handling it. But how can you tell us, what is causing the spike, if you're aware of the homicide rate in the district? And also, what efforts are you making right now to address this issue of police reform in the city?
Well, let me kind of start with your question about crime. And I don't know about you, but I think every DC resident, no matter where they live, deserves to live in a safe neighborhood. That people should walk the streets, kids should be able to go to playgrounds, grandmas should not be scared in their own homes. So when you looked at me, you started your question in the right way. And that was, Mayor, what are you going to do about that? Basically, that's what I heard. That is my responsibility to make sure no matter where you live, Ward 8, Ward 3, Ward 1, that you feel safe in your home. And when people don't feel safe, they want the government to do something about it. So we have a lot of tools at our disposal. And some of them work all the time. Some of them we're testing. And some of them we have to tweak. But know this, that we're going to try everything that we can to stop people from shooting each other. You asked me what's causing the spike in homicides. People are shooting each other. And why they're doing that, how we can stop them, how we can get guns out of their hands, and how we can hold people accountable for using a gun to kill somebody. Those are all things that we're working hard to do. Part of the equation is enforcement and police enforcement. Part of it is the courts holding people accountable for committing homicide. But also a part of it is getting to people before they commit those crimes so that they can choose other methods. So we continue to work on strategies. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more, about how we can organize and do some things a little bit differently to keep people from using guns. Now, at the bottom of it all, some of it is what the government can do. And others, the real solution, I think, is when we look at our young people who have become older people and middle-aged people who have grown up without hope. And they feel like they don't have many options. So when you feel that way, using a gun or taking another person's life is not as meaningful to you. So at the bottom of it all is, how do we restore hope and provide opportunity to people who don't have it? And then I'm sure that we will figure out how to get not just out of the spike that we're in now, but how we can deal with real entrenched crime that has taken root in too many places in the district.
Now, some folks, though, still are. I mean, we're looking at the situation that happened up on at the 4th District. The young man that wasn't a shooting, but it involved or sort of exacerbated this whole issue of police and defunding police, and how police are accused of being overly aggressive, particularly with young African American men. How are you addressing that issue and the whole issue of defunding the police?
Well, you know my background, Denise. I'm an ANC commissioner, a ward council member, and a mayor, all wrapped up into one person. And so I've worked with communities, especially in Ward 4, on Kennedy Street Northwest for many years. And so I would be careful to suggest that the community doesn't want Kennedy Street to be safe and doesn't want police protection and patrols. Because I can assure you, I could probably show you 1,000 emails that would suggest to you that the government has to be active on Kennedy Street. Having said that, the police have to follow the rules. The rules are there to protect everybody, to protect the police and to protect the public. And unfortunately, what we saw, and the reason why we have a chase policy in the city is because we know that chases can be dangerous. If I had $1 for every time somebody asked me, why don't you chase all of those ATV riders that are riding through the city, causing havoc? Because if somebody gets hurt in one of those pursuits, it's a difficult question to answer. So should this young man have been stopped? We haven't had we haven't had the opportunity to interview the officer yet. You know how these investigations go. So it may be that he should have been stopped. But at some point when it becomes a pursuit, if that's what the investigation determines, that's when you're outside of the rules.
Well, we know that that's an ongoing subject. I know your chief has some concerns about his budget in the going forward, and we'll see. Of course, post-election, we're also concerned about the safety of the city from outsiders that come in to wreak havoc. But I want to switch right now because I appreciate your time and I don't want to hold you. But you're sitting in a classroom right now and had to initially sort of reverse your school opening plan. So what are you telling residents now about,
Well, I haven't reversed anything. So that's the first thing that I want to say. We have a plan to open. We're in a building right now that's ready to open. I just had a meeting with my public schools officials and it's ready to open. What we need is our teachers back. And so we will be working with the Washington Teachers Union to continue to work with them so that they can be in our school buildings teaching kids. That's why we spent all this time in building the most talented and highly effective teaching corps in this region, because teachers being with their kids in impeccable school buildings is the key to learning. And so we're going to do everything possible to make sure our teachers are in classrooms teaching our kids. Meanwhile, we're also going to have a strategy, what we call a care classroom. The system that the children use is called Canvas. And we're calling these the Canvas enrichment classrooms, where we are going to have adults that work with children. Many of our nonprofit partners who work with our children will be the adults that supervise their in-person experience. So the kids will do their virtual learning in their classroom with one of our nonprofit partners or another adult who will be the supervisor of the care classroom. I feel so grateful to our Department of General Services staff our emergency operations center led by Director Chris Geltart, who have made sure that we have gone above and beyond to make our school buildings safe and ready for learning.
So you're a mom.
I am.
And you have a little person that may be getting ready to go to school.
She's 2, so she's not, well, she is actually ready for school. She's just not old enough.
I can't imagine what it would have been like for you, and I'm sure that you empathize with a lot of parents out there who've had to do this distant learning, who have had lost jobs or having to work from home and teach their children at the same time. And what message do you have for them? I mean, I know there's probably one of encouragement, but.
Well, one of the big messages that I have is actually, it's not for the teachers, but it's about the teachers. I think what parents are real clear about is that we're not teachers. We haven't been trained on how to teach kids, and the job that teachers do for developing these young minds, it's a profession. They know what they're doing, and so I know that parents are doing their very best, given that this is not what they do every day. This is not what they've been trained to do. They love their kids. Obviously, they're going to supervise their kids. They're going to make sure they're listening to their teachers and doing all of that. But as much as we love our kids, we're not replacement teachers, because so the message I would give parents is that you take it easy on yourself. You're doing the best that you can. Keep doing the best that you can. Our teachers are doing the best that they can remotely as well, being innovative and coming up with ideas to keep kids engaged. So keep doing that. We'll get on the other side of this pandemic, and we'll get back to the way learning should happen.
Mayor Bowser, I want to thank you so much for this time, and hopefully you won't be a stranger. I know once we get past the first, well, probably the next time we'll be out together. Are you going to do your run again at the
well, we're working on that. We're working on how we can do it all across the city, so everybody doesn't have to come to the same location. But yes, we're not going to let you off the hook. You have to do the Fresh Start 5K on January the 1st, and we'll get out the details of how we can do that.
All right. Well, we're going to have a very interesting 2021, so we want to stay close so that we can help to deliver the message. But I want to thank you so very much for being with us today. All right.
Thanks, Denise. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.